Hi everyone, welcome back to a town called Yarn, obviously not a real town. My name's Harrison and this is episode, I don't know what episode it is, 21? 21 of my Knitting and Crochet podcast where I talk about knitting and crochet / yarn in general. And I did speak about cross stitch for a little bit, but I haven't done that for like 2 months now, so we don't talk about cross stitch. One day we might talk about cross stitch again. I said welcome back, but if you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, subscribing would be wonderful. I'd like to get to 500 subscribers by May because that'll have been a year, so that'd be wonderful. If you're not new here, then welcome back, and thanks for coming back. I don't really think there's nothing else I say at the start of these. I don't really have any big updates. It's been 2 weeks again. I feel like I should probably stop saying it's been 2 weeks at the start of the videos because it's always been 2 weeks. And maybe I should just say it's not been 2 weeks if that's the case, like if for some reason I miss a week. But here we are, 2 weeks later. I've had a bit of a mad couple of weeks crafting wise. Last weekend, so the weekend before you're watching this, if you're watching it when it came out, I cast on 3 things all in the same day. It all went a bit crazy. And that's not really like me. I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 WIPS, which is a lot. I used to be, in 2023, I was just a boy who just made 1 blanket at a time. And that's why we call that the year of 13 blankets. But now there's just so many things I want to work on. I do have 1 finished object alongside those 7 WIPS. And I don't think I've got any other life stuff to talk about. I am considering, I see a lot of people also talk about like the things they've been reading / watching at the end of their videos. And I'm not sure whether, because I do read and I do watch things, I'm not sure whether that's something that people would be interested in me talking about at the end of the videos. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about what I've been watching at the end of the video. Yeah, why not? We'll see what happens. And then if you hate it, let me know in the comments and I won't do it next time. Should we start with finished objects? Oh, and one other thing that I'll do in this video is I'm also going to do my tally of yarn in, yarn out, which is kind of the February update, because this is my first video post-February, because it is the 7th on the day I'm filming. Let's talk finished objects. Now, I have 1 finished object, like I said. However, it's not 100% finished, but I've decided as I'm in charge here that I'm going to count it as a finished object, because all I've left to do is weave in the ends and potentially add some tassels. But I'd like some feedback on the tassels, but we'll talk about those. So this is my field shawl. So this is a pattern by Max the Knitter, one of the 2 Lego Tomboys. And this is a very, very simple garter stitch pattern using DK weight yarn. I think it was written for hand spun. I think it's such a straightforward pattern that you could probably just quite easily adjust for any yarn weights. And it started on this point. You increase, 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 you get to the centre, you decrease, 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 and then you end there. Mine's a little bit smaller than the original pattern because I didn't have quite the yardage. So there's kind of 2 sections that would be in the middle. But I think it's a good size. I would probably wear it like this, I imagine, is probably how I'd wear it. So it's plenty big enough to go around my shoulders. And then I could wear it as more of a, I've forgotten how to wear scarves. I don't really wear scarves that often. You could probably, no, that's silly. Why would you wear it like that? I don't know how I'll wear it. I've not worn it yet. But I really like it. This yarn is from Pigment and Ply. It's their Merino Cashmere Nylon DK base in the colourways La Viuda Romana, which is the variegated, which is this really kind of super autumnal variegated yarn, and then Wilding Muse, which is this green, which is kind of a nice warm toned green. And these I just went in my mouth. These are both from their 2023 Advent that they then did pre-order for full skeins on. It used most of 2 skeins. How much do I have left of each? I think I have about 20 grams left of each colourway, which means I probably could have got away with adding in that middle section, but it would have maybe been a bit tight, especially on this colourway, because if you've watched my previous episodes, you'll have seen that I did originally start a different project with this yarn, and I lost some of this yarn in that project, so I definitely had enough of this, I think, but maybe not of this. But I'm completely fine with the size of it, and now I've got some leftover yarn that I can do something with at some point. I'm starting to get quite a lot of DK leftovers, so I might have to start a project to kind of use them, maybe something a bit scrappy. But yeah, like I said, I've got quite a few ends. I kind of underestimated how many ends I had to fit sew in, because I finished this on Wednesday, and then yesterday I was so exhausted yesterday. I went to sleep at 9:30, and normally I go to sleep at 10, so it wasn't like a crazy early night for me, but I just couldn't stay awake. So I didn't get as many ends weaved in yesterday, so I've done that many ends, so I've got all of to go through, but I don't mind weaving ends. This was knit on Leica interchangeable circular needles on 4mm. I think from a gauge perspective, I don't think I got gauge, but this fabric is perfect for me, so I'm really happy that I used those needles. It's super, super squishy, but it's still kind of got a nice density to it. This is going to be so warm. I don't think I'm going to get a lot of wear out of it this year. Potentially, it depends. I think we're going to have a cold snap in the UK a bit later in March. But I think I'll get much more out of it like later in the year, in winter. But I love it. I need to stop putting that in my mouth. I think it's so pretty. These colourways, I've started, and I don't know whether this will happen, I've started thinking about my wardrobe a little bit in a way that I could start wearing my knitting a bit and almost have like seasonal colour palettes, which maybe sounds quite pretentious. But what I'm thinking of doing is making it so basically all the clothes I wear are like beige, and then making it so I then have knitted things, hats, scarves, gloves, maybe even like jumpers, t-shirts that are then in colours. I don't know, I've not put that much thought into it, but I think this is kind of me in autumn. I think they're really, really pretty. And I really like knitting on it. Like I said, really simple pattern, just kind of simple. It's a 4-row repeat on both sides. So I might make another one of these at some point. I probably will make another one of these at some point. There's some, there's a John Arbon base that I'm interested in. I can't remember what it is, but they have a DK version of that I think would be really, really lovely in this, like using 2 solid colours. But that is my field shawl. I don't think I had anything else to say about it. I'll weave in the ends this weekend, and then I can't decide whether I want to block it yet, because it feels kind of perfect already, but I might block it as well. Maybe get a bit more drape in it. But that's a decision. Oh, tassels. So in the pattern, there is the option to add tassels, and I definitely have the yarn for it. I just don't know. Do you think, are we tassels? Like, do we think tassels are the vibe? The way I'd probably do it is I'd probably add this colour tassel onto this side, and then add this colour tassel onto this side, and have a bit of like asymmetry. I just can't work out if I'm a tassel boy or not. But I think it could look cute, just having like a little tassel there. So maybe I'll add tassels to it. If I do, I'll show you the tassels in the next episode. If I don't, then I haven't added tassels, or I've forgotten to show you that I added tassels. So leave you guessing. But that is the Field Shawl by Max the Knitter. Really enjoyed that. So now we're on to WIPS. Like I said, of which there are 7. To the point where I've run out of project bags, and one of them's just not in a project bag, and it's made me think maybe I should buy some more, because there's a bit of me that thinks this is maybe my life now, and that maybe I enjoy the WIPS, so I should have spaces for the WIPS. But let me take a sip of water, and then let's talk about the WIPS. Let's talk about the one I've worked on the least. And I didn't intentionally work, I suppose I did intentionally not work on this as much. This is the Simon Shawl by Twinset Purl, which I am knitting out of the John Arbon Knit by Numbers 4-ply, which is there. It's 50% Blueface Leicester, 50% Falklands Merino. And I'm discovering more and more that I'm a Blueface Leicester boy. I love Blueface Leicester bases at the moment. I think I prefer them in general to Merino. So this is where, I've made less progress on it than I thought I had. So this is where we're at. I'm in section 4 of the pattern, which is just kind of the straight, no increases, no decreases. And if you can see that there, that's how much I've increased. This has become quite mindless, which I enjoy. But it also feels like you have to do a lot of knitting to make very much progress, which I needed something that felt, it's why I ended up finishing this, was because this has lots of sections in it. So it feels like you're completing it. Whereas this, you're knitting for length, and obviously it's a scarf, so I've got some way to go really. I've got loads to get through. But having said that, I'm really enjoying the actual knitting. I'm enjoying the pattern. I'm enjoying the slip stitches and that whole element. So I do really want to prioritise this. I want to get this much further on. I think what I'm going to try and do is almost dedicate a set amount of time every day to it, because I don't want it to be the only thing I knit on for the next 2 weeks. But I'd like to knit on it, I think, every day. So I might try and dedicate maybe like half an hour a day just to this, and then eventually we'll get through it. And I don't want it to feel too much like I'm just trying to get through it, but that's just kind of where I'm at the moment, especially because I've got new cast-ons that I'm slightly more excited about. But having said that, I really like this. And I will also knit another one of these. It's not that I'm bored of the pattern, it's just kind of where my brain is at the moment. I want something a little bit more, something that you can see the progress on, like stripes, that kind of thing. I think this would be more like that if I was using a higher contrast, because as you can see, the black and the green are very low contrast. Like from back here, it probably just looks black. I'm knitting this for my boyfriend, who that's what they wanted. They picked out the colours, and it looks nice in person. I like the green and the black together. It's a little bit like mid-2000s emo, which is kind of the vibe I think he was going for. He's not particularly an emo, but he likes dark colours. He's one of those people whose favourite colour is black, and then I have to remind him that I don't think that counts as a colour, and that there are other colours that are more interesting. But that's really it, actually, what needles am I using on those. So I'm using Leica Circular 3.5s on that. I do think the gauge is potentially a little bit loose. I don't dislike it, but I think the Knit by Numbers is quite a thin 4-ply. I think I could have probably done like a 3.25, maybe even a 3, but I didn't gauge swatch because it's a scarf, it's just going to be how big it is. And the loose gauge will make it kind of slightly more wearable for a bit longer into kind of earlier autumn, later spring. And this is in a bag by the Fibre Fox, which has all these moths on it, which is fun. I really like this bag, actually. It's a nice kind of bucket bag. I might buy another one of these, actually, because it's a good shape, and it will fit quite a lot of different kinds of projects. Let's put that over there so I don't get confused over which one I've talked about, because like I said, there are lots. Let's talk about another WIP that you've seen. This is my third weekend hat by Petite Knit, and I'm knitting this using the Nautical Nexus monthly club from the Woolen Wytch, and this way's colourway this month, or February's colourway. February's colourway was called Flutter. This is 100% Blueface Leicester DK. This is the skein. This is what's left, and this is where I'm up to. I'm getting towards decreases, I think. that stitch marker there's where I was, so I've got quite a good length on it. I'm knitting these on 3.5mm Chalgoo 16-inch circulars. I love this yarn. I love how it's knitted up. I think the Woolen Wytch is such a good dyer. The main thing on this, so this isn't for me, this is going to be for a friend who is moving away. Actually, I need to work out when they're moving away because I need to make sure I have 2 hats done. I should look into that. The main thing is, so when I knit these hats for myself, and I've knit 2 for myself, I knit them as a cap. So I knit them so they're not quite as long, and that they sit quite snug to the top of my head and have quite a wide brim. That's not how she'll wear this hat. So I need to kind of work out, I've got quite a big head, so I might need my boyfriend to kind of try it on almost and work out how long it should be on him, because I imagine his head size is closer to hers because he's quite a small-headed boy. But I need to work that out, just to work out how much more I want to put into it before I do the decreases. But I'm really enjoying this, and I haven't got March's colourway of this yet because it's only the 7th. I'd like to get this done before that comes in so that I can maybe cast on another hat. I think though my next hat I'm going to make sure is not the Weekender by Petite Knits. I want to try a different hat pattern. I want to try something a bit different and try a different designer. But I'm enjoying working on this, and this is in one of my many button-up handmade bags, which is Conchetta, available on Etsy, and I love this size bag. I definitely want to get another one of these bags, I think, because this size is perfect for a hat. And I'm always knitting hats these days, so it'd be good to have more of them. I might actually need to get another pair of 16-inch circulars just so I can maybe have more than one hat on the go, because then I could have kind of a simple hat and then maybe something more complicated. I do eventually want to make a muscle bra, but the cast on just looks mad to me. It kind of stresses me out, so I just haven't done it. But obviously once you get past the cast on, it's quite nice just to have a lot of stockinette to knit. But that's WIP numero 2. Let's talk about the project that's kind of in some ways related to that, because it's the project I'm going to put the leftover yarn from that in. So if you'll have seen before, I knitted month 1 of the Nautical Nexus Club, which I also knit into a Weekender hat. You'll have seen if you watched a few episodes ago, was this colourway, and this is called the Lonely Abyss, I think. It's based on a blue whale. What I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on taking whatever's left over from all of those skeins all year, which will vary slightly year on year because I'll make different size things. I'm probably going to end up making most of them into hats, but I might end up making some of them into like mitts or something. But I think whatever I make with any of them will always have some left over. I'm going to put into this, which is just quite simple. I cast on 100 or so stitches, joined in the round, and I'm just knitting all the rounds. And then it will become a cowl that it's kind of like the litmus cowl, same vibes. The one thing I did on this, which I didn't do on the litmus cowl, is I did a crochet provisional cast on, which is that yarn there, which was fine. It was a little bit of not a faff, I wouldn't say, but it was a little bit, it's quite fiddly. I think the way I crochet doesn't lend itself to having to move the yarn around. But I got through it, and obviously you only have to do it once. And then I'll knit all the way around and then graft the 2 ends together. And I really like how this is knitted up. And then even though I'm giving that hat away, I'll still have some of the yarn in something that I can keep for the whole 12 months. So this is a full year project. And I'm knitting this on like a 3.5 inch, no, 3.5 mil, 3.5 inch would be insane, 16-inch circulars. And it's fun, and I'll just add to this each month. So once I finish that hat, whatever's left will go into this. And I'll try and keep up with it as the months, because I don't want to end up with loads of scraps. But I have put it in a bigger bag than it needs, just in case I do end up with scraps. And that's WIP number 3, which is quite a quick one. Is there anything else to say about that, actually? No. What to talk about next? Did I do 3? No, that was one of the new cast ons. I have 2 other new cast ons. Let's do something that you've kind of seen. Although last time you saw this, it was a bit it was just in dismembered pieces. What I have done is I have finished the body of one of the dolls that I'm making for my nephew. So this is a pattern by, bear with, I am really bad. Unless I knit, like, by the end of doing some pattern, I kind of remember their name. Because I say out loud on these podcasts enough to remember it, but I've only said this once, I think. Chastity Ann Designs, which was available on Etsy. And what it is it's two dolls. I'll put up a picture there. It's two dolls based on the island and the lava characters from Moana. My nephew is obsessed with Moana, so I'm making that for him. So this is the body. I finished this actually the day after I filmed the last podcast. I keep doing this thing where I forget I'm making this, and then a weekend goes and I haven't worked on it, and I'm like, I do have a bit of a deadline. I need to do this and one other by the 29th of March. Currently the 7th, so I have 22 days to do that, which is actually quite stressful. I do have a week off in between now and then, so it might be that that's what I focus on that week. But this is not one. I think what I'm going to do is I need to do the hair, and I think then what I'll do is I will make the body of the next one. The next one's made out of black chenille yarn, which I can't say I'm excited about working on. But I think then I'll make the body and get to the same stage on that one. And then I can then add like the clothes and the accessories and kind of maybe do it a bit production line style. I'm really happy with it though. The head is bigger than it's meant to be. I think I maybe added too many rows, or maybe increased one time too many. But I think it still looks kind of proportional with, I mean, especially we're quite a large scaled family, so maybe it's the kind of representation we need in the doll world. But I like it, I'm happy with it. Well, actually, I like it, I'm happy with it. I don't like making it. I'm not an amigurumi boy. So it is, I think it's why I keep forgetting I'm working on it, because it's not something I'm desperate to work on. But my nephew's cute and he will really enjoy it. Or at least he better, otherwise I will genuinely be quite devastated. And next year I will just give him like an apple or something. But this is, to be fair, it's not going to fit in this bag for much longer because this bag won't fit two dolls. But at the moment this is living in another one of the Bottom handmade bags. And I'm doing this on a 5mm crochet hook. And it's like a super chunky, maybe just a chunky chenille yarn from Yarnsmiths. Actually, saying what the yarn is probably helpful. From Yarnsmiths. It's just the Yarnsmith chenille, which is from Wool Warehouse. WIP number 4. Should we do another new cast on? This is the one that doesn't have a bag. Although I suppose it can have a bag now, but I don't want to put it in a bag because I'm not going to put it in a bag, it's just going to live on the table for a bit. If you watched before, you might recognise this yarn. I made a Traveller Cow using this yarn, which is DK 100% Superwash Merino from the Crafty Bird in the colourway The Family Madrigal, which is based on the film Encanto. So I bought 3 skeins of this. This is the leftovers from skein 2, and then I still have a full other skein. So that was obviously a cow. My plan is to make some fingerless mitts and a hat that kind of go with it to have a bit of a matching set. I think that would be cute. And I've had this, I want to learn a good technique for doing small circumference circular knitting. Because it's kind of the one thing I've not mastered. Double pointed needles I'm able to do, but not in a way that I enjoy it enough to do a whole project on them. I've tried magic loop before and it confused me and I ended up knitting like 3 times on the same side. So I bought some 9-inch circular needles and these are working. So at the moment, this is just some 2x2 ribbing. I cast on 50 stitches and I learned that you have to have an even number of ribs for the ribbing to work out. So I do have a section where it's just 4 knit stitches next to each other. I don't know if you can see that, actually, it might be a bit dark, just under the needles. But I'm fine with it. I'm referring to it as a design. I might try and keep that going all the way up, maybe. But I have to say, I've hated every single stitch of this. These are the Addy 9-inch circulars, 3.5mm. The Addy, what are they called? Addy Lace. I was told in German, which is a language I do not speak. Is it Socken Wonder? Oh, Addy, it does say in English. Addy Sock Wonder, which have one, I can't show you because the knitting's over it. The right, or one of the needles is slightly longer and then the other is shorter, which I thought would be the vibe. The problem is I think my hands might be too big. I have quite big hands, so having to hold on to these little needles, it's just not that enjoyable. I think it might get better when I'm just knitting in the round for the stockinette section once I've done like the bottom of the cuff. So I'm going to persevere. However, I think I need to learn Magic Loop. I think I just need to sit down and force myself to like knit something Magic Loop and get into it, because I think Magic Loop is kind of the one that will make the most sense to me, because it will be fluid enough and I'll have enough room to move, and just won't get all little bunched up. What I have also done is I've also bought some Chow Goo 9-inch circulars, also 3.5mm. These have two needles that are the same size. What I'm considering doing is on the next pair, the next one of these, is trying these needles out to work out whether it's that having a shorter needle thing I don't like. So I'll give that a go. But then if not, I'll just try Magic Loop again. Because it would be such a handy skill to learn, because it means that you can just have one pair of needles that you can use for like multiple circumferences. And I think I will try that out on a hat that I need to knit for my sister's unborn child. I think will be what I do. So yeah, I'm not enjoying this. I'm enjoying the way the yarn knits up again. I'm happy to be using this yarn because I really love this colourway, and I love the Crafty Bird's DK base. I love the Crafty Bird's colourways. It makes me feel like a giant, and I'm like quite a big boy, but it just makes me feel like I'm doing something that needs child hand. Like I almost think maybe what I need to do is teach my nephew to knit, and maybe he could become like a sock producer for me, because I think these needles would be perfect for him. And he's 3 this month. Although that sounds a bit like child labour actually, so I won't be doing that. If you don't call the authorities. I am using a pattern, am I actually? I might be lying to you. I think I'm using a pattern for these. Let me just tell if yes. The pattern I'm using for this is the Point Edwards Mitts by Fairlight Fibres, which is a free pattern. And it's quite it's quite a simple pattern, but it's fun that it's free. When I say that I'm casting this on, that said cast on 40 stitches. I cast on 50. One, because I think I have bigger hands than a normal person. Secondly, 40 stitches just didn't feel like it would be comfortable having to move around. So I just cast on another 10. Which I might live to regret, because it means I'll have to do maths later on for the decreases and all that, but we'll see. Actually, I suppose there won't really be decreases, so. But there are make one rights. Make one rights on these needles feels mad. But we'll persevere. And this is the most ever small circumference knitting that I've ever done. So I'm quite happy with that. And I'm happy that I should get something out of it. And maybe I'll just become the kind of boy who wears one mitt. Maybe that'll become my thing. I'll be a bit like Michael Jackson vibes, where I just walk around with one mitt and I never knit the second because I don't want to do it. Maybe that'll be my style statement for the year 2025. Who knows? I turned 30 this year. Maybe that'll be who I am in my 30s. The boy who wears one glove. So that's my second new cast on. Let's go back to something that isn't a new cast on. So this is a Pigment and Ply bag. This was the bag that came in their 2023 advert, and it's really fun. I really enjoy it. For a long time, this was just storing yarn, and then I remembered I had it, and I was like, why am I not using that as a project bag? It's not. It's more than just a yarn holder. And in here is my Tintype which is a pattern by Woldten. I think I'm saying that right. And I'm really enjoying this. I haven't put quite as much progress into it as I thought I would, mainly because I wanted to work on this, but I wanted to finish my field shawl. So this will probably get quite a lot of work in it. And I am up to here. So I think last time I showed you, I think I was at the 3rd colourway. So I've added 3 more colourways. But I think now you can kind of see the effect of the pattern a bit more because you're kind of seeing what's happening. So this is a scarf. I think it's called a shawl, but it's more scarf vibes, I think. It's in the pattern, you have options to do different edging, different cast-ons. It's a really, really good pattern, actually. I've kind of got it down to memory now because I understand the vibes of it. What it does is it uses German short rows to create these shapes. So you create the grey bit, and then you kind of, so I've just done the grey section, and then I'll do another colour section. So I'll add in colourway 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll add in colourway 7, which is this colourway, and I'm knitting this using, the colours are the Crafty Bird Musicals Advent from 2024, so this is one of my Advent projects for this year. And then the grey yarn is from, it's an unnamed colourway from Pixie Yarns. It's kind of close to their Drizzle colourway, but it came in a kit and it wasn't named. And I'm just loving this. And I think I'm also quite excited to block this because, as you can see, it's quite like geometric, but my gauge isn't perfect, and I've never done German short rows before, so I think there's some potential gauge issues with those, but I think it will block up nicely and I'll be able to pin it so that each of these lines are really straight. And I just think it's going to be so fun. I'm knitting this on 3.75 Leica circular needles. I think I could have gone down a needle size gauge wise. I like the fabric. It would just be a bit denser, but I love it. The grey sections are garter stitch, and then you do the other sections are in stockinette so that you get this kind of raised effect. I just think it's such a good pattern. I could see myself knitting a lot of these because I think it's a really good Advent pattern. It's not, I think it's too complex for it to be the kind of Advent pattern you do in December, but I think it's a great way to use up an Advent or to use up scraps, or I think I might do one on a kind of gradient yarn and just use one skein that kind of goes through it. I just think it's great. What was I going to say? My mind just completely went blank then. I'm hoping to kind of, what I need to work out is the original pattern has 36 of those colour sections. Obviously an Advent only has 24 days. And initially I thought, oh, that'd be fine. But actually on reflection, that's like a third less than the pattern calls for. Once I've done all 24 days once, I will check the length and I'll see whether it feels like a wearable good length. If it doesn't, what I might do is go backwards and use the colours again, and get to 36. I might even go to 48, although I don't think I'll have enough of the main colours to go to 48, so we'll have to see. But we'll see, because I definitely have enough of the colourways to do them again. If anything, this feels like a bit cheaty, because this is how much I have left of each colourway, and I think I'm using maybe 3 or 4 grams. So I have plenty to do then another project. Which is one of the problems with my Advent projects that I've done, is what I'm ending up with is basically at least half a skein left, half a mini left. And so I still have a lot of Advent yarn to do something with, so I do need to consider that and do something about that at some point. But for now, really, really happy with that. And like I said, that'll probably be my main focus over the next couple of weeks. But I'll work on lots. I'm having a good time with my knitting at the moment. I'm really I'm into it. I'm into what I'm doing. And my crochet, actually. My next project is crochet. I'm enjoying that as well. Should we talk about it? Oh, God. I'll try not to spill water everywhere. This is a bag that I made. It's a weird shape because I didn't take into account the width when I was doing the box bottom, so it feels a lot taller. It's meant to be a lot wider than this. but I made it. It's got a dodgy bag pin on from Ali over at Little Jobs Wonderful. And in here is the first bit of my, I don't know what this pattern's called. And I don't think I have it on my phone. I think it's the So Festive wrap. Oh, I should look that up. Apologies. I should be more prepared than this before I start filming. I think it's the So Festive. I'll just check my library. Oh, like on Ravelry, not the Just Feel Festive Shawl, which is a pattern by Caleisha Ryan, and it's a kind of, it's a granny stitch shawl that's kind of knit on the bias, so it's, you can see it kind of angles, but still goes straight. And I am using the Universe at Your Doorstep club from Third Fault Yarns, which is the wonderful Lola, and this is a monthly club, and I'm getting one skein of DK weight yarn each month. This is the colourway Caked Up. I think it's really fun. This colourway was called, it was something like A View of Jupiter and Mars, and I think it's such a good name for such a good colourway. And it's crocheted up really, really nicely as well. What I'm going to do is, so this pattern's initially written for an advent, and it's for an advent held double using 24 colourways. I'm going to get 12 colourways. I'm already using DK yarn, so I'm doing the sections to be twice as long to account for the missing colourway, and I'm obviously not holding a double. So I've taken this to about 5 inches, which means across the year I'll end up at about 60 inches, which will be a nice length for the wrap. And I just think, it's going to be really fun. I'm really interested to see next month's colourway, or the next colourway, which should probably come in the next week or so, to add into it, to see, because I don't know, the theme the Universe at Your Doorstep makes these kinds of colours feel like they'll be quite common, but I don't know if that's the case. I don't know whether the next month might be something like a spaceship colourway that's quite grey, or whether we'll always have a lot of these blues. So I'm excited to find that out across the year and fill this in. And this is just a nice, simple crochet pattern, I think. And this is a nice base. It's 100% Superwash Merino DK. And it's a nice gauge. I'm doing this on a 4.5mm crochet hook. Yes, 4.5mm. And I think that's everything. I don't really, it's kind of, it will grow quite nicely and then be like obviously more to look at, because at the moment it just feels like a tiny little scarf. Maybe it is. Maybe I'll just make it a tiny little scarf. I won't. I have no need for tiny scarves. I see the Sophie scarf has kind of gone back up in popularity, I suppose, on knitting, and I think it's quite cute. And sometimes I'm like, maybe I should knit one, but then I'm just kind of like, what am I going to do with a tiny scarf like that? I don't even think it would fit around my neck. But then also I'm like, I feel like most knitters have knit one, so maybe I should join the club, but what would I do with that? I don't know why. That was a bit of a tangent. So I need to figure out something to do with this yarn. I think I have about half the skein left, maybe a little over, maybe kind of 55, 60 grams. So I need to figure out what to do with that. I think I want it to be, I kind of want it to be a hat, but I need to stop knitting hats. I'm already probably going to knit 12 hats this year using one club. I can't knit hats using the other club. I don't need 24 hats. I don't wear hats. I don't go out very often. I work from home most of the time. I have no need for all these hats. But I do want to figure out what to do with this, because I don't want it to be lingering all year. So whether it forms part of like another project that's a 12-part thing, or whether I do make something singular out of it, we shall see. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to put too much thought into it now because now's not time to like muse on what kind of patterns. But that's all of my works in progress. And I know this is, brace yourself, make sure you sit down. I've not bought any yarn since I last spoke to you. I've not even ordered any. I mean, I have, actually that's not true. I have ordered some that's not here yet, but all that's coming is I've obviously paid for the next month of my clubs, but they're not here yet. And I have paid for and started the subscription for the Green Lambkin Yarn Advent for this year, which she sends out monthly. But I don't think that counts. It does count, it's 12 months. It's obviously yarn, but I'm not going to count that as yarn in, yarn out until the end of the year, I think. I think I'll count all my advents. Oh my god. I need to start using a lot more yarn if I want to end up using more than I gain, because at the end of the year I'm going to end up with a load of advents, which in themselves will be I mean, I say a load of advents. I don't know how many I'll get this year. I might try and cut it down and not get 5. But we'll see. It's March, so let's not think too much about Christmas. But let's talk on the subject of yarn in, yarn out. Let's talk about how it went last month. Where is it in this notebook? I literally have to it. There we go. So we ended last month with yarn in of 1,875 grams, which is rough. This month, I have had 2 projects that I finished. Is that true? Did I finish something else? I feel like I finished something else last month. 1 second. Let me just check let me check the comment. How do I check? What would be the easiest way to check? Let me check the description of my last video and see if I finished something else that I've forgotten about, because that would be huge. No, it was just the hipster hat. Yeah, ignore me. So I finished 2 projects. One was the other hipster hat, which was using that blue colourway that I showed you. That was 80 grams out. And the other is the filchal, which I'm counting as like 360 grams. But that might go up a bit if I end up turning those yarns into tassels. Which meant for February, and then I had the Woolen Wytch that came in, was that flutter colourway I'm making a hat of. And then I had this third felt yarn that I've shown you. So that means I was 200 grams in, I was 440 grams out, which meant for February I was 240 grams out, which is huge. I didn't expect that. I thought I was going to struggle to have positive months. But based on it being so bad in January, that does mean I'm 1,435 in for the year still. However, the 1,050 grams of that from Wool Warehouse will defo be gone by the end of the month. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the doll, and then whatever yarn is left over, just give to my mum, which I think counts. I'm counting it as using yarn because my mum bought that yarn. So I don't even think it's technically mine, but it won't be in my possession after March 29th, unless I don't finish the dolls, in which case I might have to keep it for a bit longer. And there's obviously other projects that I want to finish. So that's not too bad, I don't think. And I'm doing quite well at not buying yarn. The secret to not buying yarn is to not look at yarn. I'm quite a browser. I love a browse, like shopping in general. But I find obviously when you browse for things, you end up buying things. So what I need to stop doing is stop browsing, and then I won't buy anything. Although John Arbon is doing a collaboration this month with a dyer who's new to me, and they showed a little bit of a sneak peek of one of the colourways that's a mill member exclusive, and I might want to buy that. And because it's like an exclusive limited time, I will buy it if I want it when I see the full thing. So there might be more yarn next month. Shall we talk a little bit about what I've been watching and what I've been reading? And if you don't care, let me know in the comments below, because then I won't do it in the future. Should we do reading first? Because I love to read, and it is fun to talk about my reading. I don't really talk about it very much. What have I read since I'm not going to talk about everything I've read this year, because obviously to you, every book I've ever read is new, because I've not spoken about it. but that would probably be a little bit much. I have finished 2 books since I last... Is that true? Yeah, since I last filmed. The first, maybe I'll put a picture up of the covers up here. First is The Bones Beneath My Skin by TJ Klune, which is a kind of sci-fi fiction. It's quite light on the sci-fi, but there is aliens. And it's a story about a boy who's been through some kind of trauma. He's trying to get away, and then he runs into a couple of other people, another man and a young girl. And at first it's kind of, there's some conflict, but then they kind of go on a journey together. And it's the story of that journey. It's a queer fiction, but it's not the LGBTQIA-ness of it isn't not the LGBT. That's not the way to say that. The gayness of it isn't massively prevalent. It's like in there, but it's not like the main part of the story. Although I'm not saying that, suggesting it that if you're like a homophobe you should read it. I'm just kind of saying that don't go into it thinking that you're going to get like a big gay story, because you're not. If you're a homophobe, then don't read it, but also stop watching. I really like TJ Klune. I've read his Green Creek series last year, and a lot of his other books are on my radar, so I think I kind of want to read most of his books, but I'm trying not to just read all of them because I love his writing style, but I don't want to like burn out of it. The next book I read is called Giovanni's Room, which is by James Baldwin. This is kind of an older classic. So this was first published in 1956. And this is the story of a man who is in Paris in the 60s, I suppose, or in the 50s. And he's kind of going on this, it's kind of a coming of age story. It's also a bit queer, but in a slightly different way. It's not, I'd say it's kind of queer romance, or it's not romance at all, but it's kind of, the queerness is a bigger part of it, but it's more the character's battle with who he is and like discovering who he is. It's really, really beautifully written, and it's really wonderfully written about Paris during that time. It kind of gives you quite his writing style. I've never read anything by James Baldwin before, but his writing style, you really kind of get this idea of what Paris was like. I mean, it might be wrong because I wasn't in Paris in the 50s, but if he's right, you really get an idea of what Paris was like in the 1950s. And it's only 159 pages, so I gave both of these books a 3.75 because I think they're both solid books. And I really recommend that. It's a nice kind of medium-paced but shorter book, so it's a good book in between books, if that makes sense. And then at the moment, I am reading a book called The Darkness Outside Us, which is by Elliot Schrafer. And it's a sci-fi, it's also gay. I'm in a bit of a, I just want to read books about gay people kind of vibe, because I'm gay and I just like reading about gay people. So this is a kind of sci-fi book. It's about 2 characters that are on a spaceship going on a mission. They're the only 2 characters on board, and then it's kind of about the mysteries of what's going on. Maybe things aren't quite as they seem, and then how they deal with that once they kind of discover things and have to kind of figure things out. I'm probably about 80% through it. I'm almost done with it. I read mostly on my Kindle, although I am thinking that I might get into physical books again, because there's a bit of me that kind of wants to have the books. But I don't, at the moment what I do is if I really like a book on Kindle, I buy a physical copy of it to have. But I kind of think I want to maybe have more books. I don't want it to just have to be one that I live for. I want to maybe have more books in person. I love a bookshelf. I love physical books. But that's what I'm reading at the moment. What I'm watching at the moment is I'm keeping up with Severance on Apple TV, which is coming out weekly at the moment. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's one of the best shows ever made. If you've not watched it before, we're currently on season 2. It's a story set in a world where there's a procedure called severance, which basically you have a chip planted in your head, and it means they can almost turn on 2 versions of you. And in the instance that we see in the show, there's almost these people go to work and they're severed, so they're like switched onto a different version of themselves that remembers nothing about the outside world, and then vice versa, when they leave work they remember nothing about being at work. And I'm really loving that at the moment. My battery's about to die. We'll see how long it lasts. I'm also watching Toxic Town on Netflix, which is based on a real story about Corby in the UK, when there were a lot of children born with birth defects, and kind of why that was, and kind of what caused that, and like the mothers fighting for that, which is really, really good. It's like 4 episodes on Netflix, so it's quite a quick watch. I've got 1 more episode of that to watch. Really enjoying it. My battery died, so I think I was just telling you about Toxic Town, which is on Netflix, and then I'm also watching Abbott Elementary on Disney Plus, which I really like. We're on season 4 of that. It's like a 20-minute mockumentary style sitcom, which I really, really love. It's kind of set in a school in America. It's like 10 out of 10. If you liked The Office or Parks and Rec, it's similar vibes, but more modern. And I suppose slightly more modern vibes, but really enjoying that. I think that's such a good show, actually. And it's one of those that's annoying because it feels like we get it really late in this country. So everyone gets it in America, and then it feels like you hear about the episodes and then we get like half the season 6 months later, and then we have to wait for the rest of the season due to some licensing deals, I'm sure. I don't know where else it's shown in the UK. But that's most of what I'm watching. I'm also watching a lot of YouTube. YouTube's primarily what I watch when I knit and crochet. I watch a lot of kind of knitting podcasters. I like, I've just forgotten everyone's name. I like Ali at Little Jobs Wonderful and This Little Wonderful Life. Both those channels. Ruth at Ruth Loves to Knit, I watch. I'm going to forget people now and then, because I watch quite a lot of people. I've forgotten everyone else's name, but I enjoy a lot of knitting podcasters, and I listen to like Kevin and Ray at Needle at the Ready. I watch a lot, and it'd actually be great. It would be great to know who you watch. Give me some recommendations down below as to kind of who you watch when you're knitting, or just generally, because I'm always on the lookout for more content, because I spend a lot of time knitting, and sometimes it feels like you've got through everything, and then you're like, what do I watch now? So I've started watching people open Pokemon cards, but I won't go into that. So if you're still watching, thank you so much. I will be back in 2 weeks to talk about what else I've been on. Maybe I'll finish something else. Like I said, leave a comment down below if you've got any thoughts. Let me know what you've been watching, reading, who you've been watching. A like would be great, and if you are still watching and you haven't subscribed, subscribing would be wonderful, because like you're still here. So I'm assuming you've enjoyed yourself, but maybe you'll just hate watching, in which case no judgment. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks. Bye.